We just played Representative Aguilar talking about how Republicans have been right out front talking about cutting aid to Ukraine, right? And and obviously Fiona Hill just said that Marjorie Taylor Greene, others like that, they're doing Russian disinformation. Period. Right?
Yeah, they're working for Moscow. They're doing, and with Marjorie Taylor Greene, she is straight up saying she supports Russia. She's referring to Zelensky as a criminal. She's bought into the whole QAnon conspiracy theory of bioweapons labs in Ukraine. Apparently, according to the internet, which invented me and made me capable of defeating the entire Russian army in the Kharkiv offensive. So if those biolabs are running, I'd like to see the other 30 of me because I have a big house and it's very dirty.
We helped with that. Every time there was a military victory, we were like, Malcolm did that.
Biolabs.
By the way, I may profit off you. I think I'm going to write a book entitled "Everything Malcolm Nance Was Right About." Just to take all your work.
Apparently,
but
there's a PhD. There's a woman who's writing a book or has written a book called Black Evidence, and she's discovered through her studies that black experts are not believed until they are revalidated by a white person.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
No one's ever going to believe.
Maybe I'll just call it taking credit for a black man's work. Okay, but you retweeted. You retweeted Edward Snowden swears allegiance to Russia and receives a passport, and you said, there it is. Snowden once swore an oath to protect and uphold and keep the secrets of America. Now he swears his personal loyalty to Vladimir Putin. Now he can be mobilized and sent straight to Ukraine with Steven Seagal.
Steven Seagal's beat him. Steven Seagal's already been in Ukraine.
Yeah.
And was using propaganda.
Yeah. But anyway, I mean, you've been saying that since forever. But let's talk a little bit. I wanted, because you also tweeted about the background on domestic violent extremists conducting this North Carolina infrastructure power attack. As you know and have written about in your books, I mean, this is in, terrorist playbooks forever, foreign and domestic, attacking the power structure. But here we are. In America, it's domestic, it's right-wing, it's, in this case, it looks like to be targeting LGBTQ groups again.
Well, apparently it decided to target an entire county. So what do we have? 100,000 people who are without power. That includes people who are on life support systems, children in neonatal care, elderly who may be operating oxygen pumps. People who have to recharge batteries for medical systems. When you turn off power, you kill people. So I'm not buying this whole that it was an act of extreme vandalism. It was an act of terrorism. No matter who did it, it was an act of terror. Because it wasn't just some good old boys going around and taking a plunk at a transformer. It was multiple transformers fired at with high-capacity weapons in multiple places. And it's a remake of the San Francisco Bay attacks that took place in California a few years ago.
Yep.
And if you go to my book, They Want to Kill Americans, it's on page 160 about carrying out critical infrastructure attacks against power grids. It's occurred in more than one place in the United States. It's just that the one in California, they never found out who the shooter was.
Yeah.
In this particular instance, it was so big that this will have to be an FBI and Joint Terrorism Task Force operation to make sure that what we don't have is the beginnings of a real American terrorist group that has decided to emulate ISIS and Al-Qaeda.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the playbook, right, that ISIS and Al-Qaeda uses. They talked a lot about attacking power grids, right? Mm-hmm.
And to do it with firearms.
Right.
To use America's laws against it, to buy weapons and to attack critical infrastructure and people.
3 words for you. Let's turn to happy clappy news for a minute. Senator Raphael Warnock. Yay!
Yay, Senator.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is why you're always shouting at us, Shouty McShouterson from Shouttown, is because voting is really, that's the power we have to overcome all of this, right? And even though it's terrifying that it was that close, we won, right?
I think that it's great that now within our party and I'm following Victor Shi on Twitter, and he's really showing Gen Z
I know.
is turning out.
Yeah.
And the reason we keep thinking that the young people don't turn out is that we're getting older and we don't realize that they are now our age.
Yeah.
We started talking about this stuff. Gen Z's in their 30s, right? Yeah. 20s, early 30s. They're not 10 years old anymore. So they are turning out because they understand how these things impact their lives. But more importantly, the buy-in that we are finally getting from the average American to believe that democracy is under direct attack. How many times have you heard me say that on this channel?
Well, their front runner and leader of their party just talked about blowing up the Constitution. I mean,
Ending laws, rules, and regulations, and even including the Constitution, then comes back and does that, you never saw this, I never said this thing to his own followers who are out there today saying he never said this. Look, things are bad enough as it is, but I'm glad that that we are finally understanding the power of the vote.
Yeah.
It is the best weapon that we have. Yeah. And it also gives us the legitimacy to stop the people who are out there who are planning violence. Unfortunately, you have an entire party that is enamored with violence and that is enamored with lies. And that's when, comes January, when Marjorie Taylor Greene, starts getting people riled up.
Yeah.
We're going to likely see more violence.
Well, Malcolm, you've said it from day one. Donald Trump is a traitor to the United States of America. And obviously your first book's on Russia. This disinformation expert singled out Marjorie Taylor Greene as a key American dispenser of Kremlin propaganda aimed at undercutting support for Ukraine. Supporters of Ukraine are becoming increasingly alarmed at conservatives increasingly taking an overtly pro-Russia stance. Tucker Carlson, obviously, Steve Bannon. Some of the Kremlin's most blatant falsehoods about the war aimed at undercutting U.S. aid for Ukraine have been promoted by major figures on the American right, from Holocaust denier, white supremacist Nick Fuentes to Steve Bannon to Tucker Carlson, whose audience of millions is deemed especially helpful to Russian objectives. I mean, this is, I don't know what you do, because this is going to, like you say, beginning in January, when they take power in the House, they're going to do everything they can to cut aid to Ukraine.
Let me tell you, this is the equivalent of the America First movement taking over Congress in December 8th, 1941, right?
Yeah.
These are the people who would have said, well, why should we go to war with Japan? Who would have allied themselves with Nazi Germany and would have put the kibosh on the Midway, the Battle of Midway, by leaking the secrets that we knew, the Japanese secrets, and then would have told us to stop funding the landings on D-Day. These people are inherently un-American, in my perception. They're inherently un-American.
Yeah.
They have, as I wrote in the book, they want to kill Americans. They have their own vision of America, which looks closer to the man in the high castle, right, where Adolf Hitler wins World War II. These are white nationalists. They are white supremacists. Mm-hmm. They do not believe in the America as it was founded. They believe in an imaginary America in their head where they subjugate 65% of the country. Votes be damned.
Yeah.
So we have to now use that weapon, the weapon of the vote. We have to engage at every election. Warnock has been elected 4 times.
In 2 years.
Right? He's been turned out 4 times in 2 years, which means we now have an engaged base, and we need to step it up and further, make sure that primaries are treated in the exact same way that we're treating these capital elections now.
Yeah.
And the Republicans are mortally terrified of them.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, you were talking about they want to kill Americans. The suspect in last month's deadly rampage at the Colorado LGBTQ nightclub was charged with 305 criminal counts in what could be the most heavily prosecuted murder case in state history. One prosecutor said, at least to my knowledge, I think it's probably the most charges we've ever filed in a single case on a murder case like this in the state of Colorado. Good, right? Because this is what has to happen. And I don't know where your, relative happiness or not is with, what's happening with everything else, Jack Smith and espionage and J6. But it seems pretty, he has subpoenaed all the states now and all their communications with Trump. It seems like we are Yeah, that,
Yeah.
that yesterday's guilty verdicts are just the beginning of guilty verdicts for Trump. What do you think?
Yeah, there is a national counterattack against the real truth.
Mm-hmm.
We are talking about, remember, my book is about an insurgency,
Yeah.
not an insurrection. An insurrection is one little flash in the pan. And I constantly harp in my book that it's a political insurgency that will lead to an armed insurgency. And we've already seen the armed flare up as an extension of the politics. We will now have a branch of the government, 1/3 of the government will be at war with the concept of what true America is and hostile to any investigation, will carry out their own investigations in order to muddy the waters so that they can carry out their real insurgency. Donald Trump has it in his head to really overthrow the government of the United States. And he has allies out there who are willing to help him. But if Congress is going to become a key branch of that, then we're going to be in very grave danger. Whatever Jack Smith does, whatever we do, they don't care.
Right.
And we need to understand that we're going to have to stand up. My big problem now, Steph, more than anything, I don't see Americans caring about protesting.
Yeah.
They'll vote now, but now we got to learn to get people on the street, French style, South Korea.
Yeah, we can do both. I always say we can do both. March and vote. You got to do both. But